wanna see something cool?
Before I start this video, I want to say that I heavily, and by that I mean heavily, urge people to go and watch the movie in cinemas if you haven't done so already. There are gonna be spoilers in this video, so only watch if you have either seen the movie already or if you just don't care about any spoilers that you might face. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is an absolute masterpiece. At first, when the movie was announced, I honestly had good expectations because I was always a fan of Puss in Boots in general, maybe because I am also a cat person and I absolutely love everything about them and how adorable and cute they are. And since I thought the first movie was alright too, I figured that this one would be good as well, but holy, did it exceed all of my expectations. Everything about this movie just screams perfect to me, and the more I watched it, the better it got. The story focuses on the fact that almost every major character in the film, excluding Perrito and Daff, is after the wishing star, which was inadvertently revealed to Puss while he is in the cat's retirement home, giving him the idea that he can still get his lost 8 lives back after getting a chance to wish. Puss wants to get his lives back, Kitty's wish is most likely related to Puss, Goldie wants to get a real family, and Jack Horner wants to harness all magic on the planet. One of the best aspects of the story is that it takes place inside an enchanted forest, which transforms based on who touches the map that leads to the wishing star, a concept that makes the adventure extremely unique and fun. We see how the road is tough and full of danger whenever Kitty or Puss touches the map. However, the moment Perrito touches it, the path becomes one that is very friendly and very easy to pass through, showing how the little dog is pure in heart and how he sees the better side of things all the time, thus getting an easy path that matches his visions and ideas about the world. The movie does such an amazing job at showing Puss's anxiety and fear of death and how he has to accept the fact that he won't survive the next time something grave happens, so now he gives up the legendary name of Puss in Boots and instead retires, burying his old clothes and moving on with life, all because of his fear of death. He deals with the fear of his mortality all throughout the movie, and by the end of the movie he learns that he has to value this one single life that he has left, and he learns to appreciate everything he has, including all his friends and loved ones. Speaking of which, the characters in this movie are all really well developed. There was never a single second when I wasn't interested in what was gonna happen, how the characters are gonna deal with / accommodate themselves to the situation that they are in, and I was genuinely curious about how they would become better characters throughout the movie. We had a ton of characters in this one, and I must say that all of them were handled very well. Our main characters were, well, obviously, Puss, Kitty Southpaws, and an incredibly wholesome dog who they later on named Perrito. After his visit at the doctor, Puss changes from the cheerful and fearless character that we get to know and love in the Shrek movies and the previous Puss in Boots film to a literal scaredy cat who is desperately trying to avoid any confrontation with the movie's villains and fights that might occur because he fears for his life. At the end of the film, Puss confronts Death himself and in a battle proves that he no longer fears him, which in advance leads to Death leaving him alone and tells him that they will meet at some point. However, he won't haunt him anymore until the day will come. Puss learns that he could cherish the last life that he has and he decides to spend it with Kitty alongside their newly found friend Perrito. Also, Puss grows a nice, long beard which honestly fits him surprisingly well. Kitty Southpaws is a very likable character in this movie. At first, she and Puss seem to have a rivalry, however, as the story progresses further and further, we get to see how the reason why Kitty acts this way towards Puss was that she couldn't trust anybody. Puss left her at the altar, and after that day on, she could never trust anybody else, either for personal reasons or business reasons, and it's honestly so nice to see her character go full circle as well towards the end of the movie, with her learning to finally trust Puss again and their newly found friend as well. The really impressive thing is that the action of the movie is built up in such a nice way that we can already guess what Kitty is having problems with, despite the fact that it's not said straight up a lot, only a few times. It's easy to find out about this through the facial and body expressions of the character and indirectly through the things that she says. At first, Perrito seemed like the type of character who would be annoying later on, however he was literally just a wholesome character. Seriously, he is downright one of the most wholesome characters in an animated movie that I have ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen quite a few already. He befriends Puss in the cat nursing home and sticks by his side until the very end of the movie. He's a selfless, loving, naive character who doesn't even seem to realize that he was abandoned when he was a child and was literally left to drown by his own litter mates. However, he survived and his goal in life is to be a therapy dog. There's a scene in which he helps Puss overcome his anxiety and panic attacks by laying on his stomach, and it's honestly one of the cutest scenes in the movie. In the end, he fulfills his duty and becomes their friend who sticks around and cheers them on their new and upcoming adventures. They are even the ones who give him the name Perrito. Well, Technically, because throughout the movie they keep calling her Perito, and in the end, when they are deciding on a name for him, he says that he will stick with Perito because that's what his friends call him. How much more wholesome can this dog get in the last 10 minutes of the movie? Come on! Okay, but let's talk about some of the other characters who made this movie as great as it is. The villains. The villains in the movie are Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Jack Horner. Seriously, has anyone ever heard of this English nursery rhyme before? And none other than the Big Bad Wolf, who is the literal personification of death. I seriously can't stress it enough how freaking amazing the wolf was in this movie. He is hands down, without a single doubt, the most spine-chilling, scary and badass looking villain from any DreamWorks movie ever. Seriously, just look at his design already. He takes the form of a white wolf in a black hooded cloak who uses fear, intimidation and two sickles as his main weapons. Holy hell, I could make a video on death alone and why I think he is absolutely perfect in this movie, and I still wouldn't feel like I would do enough justice for his character. The way he is introduced in the movie is so well done as well. Puss is drinking through his sorrowness and death shows up out of nowhere with the most chilling whistle you will ever hear that will be ingrained into your memory and give you goosebumps every time you will hear it throughout the film. I'm not even kidding, every time I heard this whistle I was at the same time impressed and creeped out by him. Everything surrounding him is just so nicely put together. Here are a few examples. Every single time we hear his whistle, Puss's hair starts to stand up slowly on his body, signifying how scared he is of death. The second time we see him, he taunts Puss by putting 2 coins on his eyes, an old tradition originating from ancient Greece where people used to put 2 coins on deceased people's eyes so that Charon could take them to the afterlife. The third time we see him is after an explosion. Despite the fact that the explosion was loud, his whistle instantly clears every single other sound and Puss starts to look at him as he's standing between a rock formation that clearly resembles a skull. The next time we see him, he once again taunts Puss about the last 8 lives that he lost and comes very close to catching him, however, he lets his prey run. The last time we see him, he goes to fight with Puss, however, he lets him live because he sees that Puss accepted the fact that this is his last life and that he will die eventually, so that means he no longer fears death and that they will still meet in the future someday. Seriously, how more badass and intimidating can a character look at the same time in an animated movie? He's 100% my favorite villain to be ever shown in any animated movie. The voice acting is also so amazingly good, paired up with his blood red eyes and his dark colors, he takes the cake as the main villain of the movie. Also, I would love to point out how the best detail in the movie, to no one's surprise, comes from none other than Death himself. For anyone who has watched the movie, do you remember when the wolf tells Puss that he was there to witness every single one of his deaths? Yeah, so about that, he wasn't lying. If you go back to the start of the movie, when Puss is fighting the giant of Del Mar, we can literally see Death standing behind the crowd, watching over Puss from the shadows, waiting for his demise to come. Look at how scary he looks in this shot as well. How much better can this character get? In addition to this, it's no surprise that they chose to have him whistle whenever he is introduced in a scene, because apparently people in those times, and still in various different religions today, people believe that whistling at night is calling for the devil himself, in this case the so-called devil being the wolf. Of course, there is also Goldilocks and the Three Bears, who are the other group of villains in the movie. They want to kill Puss and Kitty for their crimes that they have done, but also want to get the wish that everyone is after in the movie so that Goldie can have a normal family. However, we only find out about this later on in the movie. Goldie and the Bears are the only villains in the movie who actually realize that they don't need the wish because they already have a family of their own and they are happy this way, which once again presents us the development of their character coming full circle at the end of the movie, just like Puss and Kitty have. I also have to note that the voice actors were chosen very nicely for these characters as well. While the bears are mostly there for comic relief, they are genuinely funny with the jokes that they make, just like all the other characters. Like, seriously, I laughed at almost every single joke or comical situation that the movie threw at me, and I genuinely think that the humor in this movie is golden, and I mean literally golden. I would even dare to say that it's better than in the Shrek movies, not just because the jokes can work with children as well, but because the movie is clearly not just targeted at children, but adults as well.
This is stupid.
All I smell is bullshit. Oh.
This is what made the Shrek movie so wonderful. The fact that they could tackle on tough topics that even children, adults could understand / relate to, but at the same time throwing in humor that everyone could enjoy. There is also Big Jack Horner, who was the typical child who was mistreated in his youth, and so he became an established businessman / villain in the movie, and now he wants to become even stronger than he already is. Honestly, he's a pretty well made character as well. His lines of dialogue can be funny sometimes, and the details regarding regarding him can be seen in most scenes as well. For example, the first time we meet Jack, we can see that he cuts off the horns of unicorns and keeps them as trophies for himself, and later on in the movie we can see that his carriage is pulled by none other than hornless unicorns. He uses a ton of magical weapons that are all fairy tale themed, which is honestly very interesting to see. However, I think that the other villains in the movie were better only because they actually realized their mistake in wanting something else in life, when they already had everything that they were looking for, and in the end they realized that they should just be happy that way. Like, even Death learns to leave Puss alone after he proves that he's brave enough to face him and doesn't fear him anymore, which means that he is capable of learning and changing, which he does, but Jack does not. However, ultimately he gets the fate that he deserves. Also, despite the fact that there were 3 main villains in the movie, it still doesn't feel like the movie was loaded with characters, or if they would have been too much. The movie was paced in such a perfect way that every single villain had enough time to express themselves, show what their character is like, while also leaving the main stage for our protagonist. This movie might just be one of, if not the best animated movies ever since Spider-Verse in 2018, and possibly the only other one that is a contender for the 2023 Oscar for the best animated feature alongside Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Stick around because a video is coming up on that movie as well. In addition to these, the animation was absolutely astounding in this movie. The art style and the animation style heavily resembles the one in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, yet is still distinguishable enough that the movie owns this art style. It's incredibly smooth and gorgeous, with the frame rate dropping in every single action/fight sequence, which creates tension and gives a better view to all the incredible details in the background, but also gives us a better chance to take a look at the choreography, which is also very nicely done. Like, seriously, just look at this scene and tell me it's not incredible. The fact that the comic relief is imbued with the action in such a creative and smooth way shows how carefully crafted the scene is and how dedicated all the animators were while making the movie. And seeing how Puss goes from fighting in this overly confident way at the start of the movie, yet still succeeding, to being scared to fight back in even the slightest of ways, really shows how much his character has changed, and how he doesn't want to be a part of any confrontation, fearing for his life after meeting death. I know I talked about Puss's fur and his beard already, but I seriously have to appreciate how nicely it was done. They animated everything so perfectly that this movie just became a masterpiece, not just story-wise, but visually as well. Speaking of animation, can we genuinely take a moment to appreciate even the smallest of details and Easter eggs that can be found in the movie? Like, okay, I mentioned a few in this video already, like for example the scene in which Death has coins on his eyes, or the one with Jack Horner's unicorns. However, there are so many subtle hints and references that showcase how much effort they put into the continuity of the movie as well. For example, we can see Gingy, Pinocchio, Shrek and Donkey, the Wicked Witch of the West, the cat from the first movie who is famously known as the Owl Cat, who can be found in a cat retirement home now. Jack Horner has a phoenix, a talking bug who oddly resembles Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio, poison apples from Snow White, Cinderella's glass slipper, and at the very end of the movie we can see Puss and his friends returning to Far Far Away, which you know is the famous kingdom from the Shrek universe, and they are literally headed that way, which very likely shows us that we are gonna be getting Shrek 5 soon, so everyone be happy. Along these cameos/details, I also appreciate the detail they put into continuity, like for example we see that one of the ways Puss dies is by falling off a building while being drunk, thinking that he will land on his feet, and in a later scene when they escape Jack Horner's baking factory, Kitty lands on his paws like a normal cat. However, Puss lands on his back, suggesting how he still is his old self just like before and arrogantly thinks that things will always turn out perfectly for him. But this is all the time we had today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to see some more content from me, make sure to subscribe so you won't miss out on any new videos, and also if you thought this video was nice, make sure to drop a like and comment below. Until next time, I wish everyone a wonderful evening.